does Kareem Hunt kind of limit the potential of Nick Chubb? If Kareem Hunt wasn't there, would Nick Chubb be getting the same amount of work as Derrick Henry? I think that's a pretty good question to ask. What do you guys think? What's up, Guff Gang? Grown-up fantasy football is back. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Ooh. Are we ready for today's episode, guys?
Yeah. People need this content.
Oh, yes.
I think everyone has seen the title already of this video or this podcast episode. But, James, feel free to tell the Guff Gang what's going on in today's show.
It's a clash of the Titans. Two of the best running backs in the
Quite
NFL.
literally.
Who would you rather have for the rest of the season going forward? We have Derrick Henry in one corner versus Nick Chubb in the other corner.
And these are two studs from college and two studs in the pros. Pitting them head to head, and we're about to get into it. We're about to go. But hey, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below if you enjoy this kind of fantasy football content. We're putting it out Tuesdays to Thursdays, all three of us putting in the work for you guys, the Guff Gang, because you know what? You deserve it. It's been a crazy year, and you guys have earned it. You're putting in the pain and the suffering through some somewhat tumultuous losses in fantasy. I mean, we've seen it on our show. You know, James and Zach have both dealt with it in their own ways, and we know you are too. So we're here for you with this juicy fantasy football content. So feel free to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this kind of stuff. After all that.
So with that being said, feel free to subscribe.
After all that, yeah, just feel free. Feel free. Well, after all of that, feel free. Are we ready to get into today's topic?
Freedom.
Born ready.
We're being free. Let's do it.
All right, let's get into the facts and stats here. King Henry, he is your running back 3 on the season. He has had 256 carries for 1,257 yards. He is averaging 4.9 yards per carry. He has 12 touchdowns, and he has 14 receptions on 93 yards. He has projected 372 carries for 1,828 yards, 17 touchdowns, 20 receptions, and 120 yards. He is averaging 18.2 fantasy points per game right now. In the other corner, we have Nick Chubb. He is your running back 28 on the season, but that's because he missed a significant chunk of the season due to injury. He has had 115 attempts for 719 yards. He is averaging 6.3 yards per carry, which is incredible. He has 6 touchdowns on the season, 6 receptions for 49 yards. He has projected 167 attempts, 1,046 yards, 9 touchdowns, 9 receptions, 71 yards. He is averaging 15.0 fantasy points per game right now. So get us started, Zach. What's your overall thoughts here?
All right. Well, like we said, 2 phenomenal running backs. I'm going to start off with some Nick Chubb arguments here. So Nick Chubb, it is surprising to see the yards per carry that he has, 6.3 yards per carry. Last year, I think he had 5.5. And we all said there's no way that he can top 5.5. Like, that's ridiculously good. He is 6.3 right now. That's insane. Like, his efficiency on the ground is amazing. Their O-line is playing very good. He has 394 yards created on the ground and 3.98 yards created per touch. He has 9 breakaway runs on the season, and he's getting about 16 carries or so per game. So Kareem Hunt definitely does eat into his workload a little bit, but I don't know. In tandem with Kareem Hunt, he seems like he has been doing fairly well recently. Now, on the flip side of that, you're like, okay, King Henry, you know, he's going to have a lot more carries per game. But to go from 16 carries per game for Nick Chubb to 22 carries per game for Derrick Henry is pretty absurd. He does have 4.9 yards per carry. That's still pretty good. That's not bad. That's 0.1 away from 5. So for the amount of carries he gets, I'd take that all day. He is phenomenal, though, and getting so much work in the red zone, which really helps him. So he's got 50 red zone touches. He actually has 11 goal line carries. One thing that concerns me about Nick Chubb this year, I was thinking and fully expecting, now granted he's been injured for a significant portion of the year, but he's going to possibly only get 9 touchdowns this year. Last year he got 8, and that was playing a full season. So I would have loved to see him like in the teens with touchdowns, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. So that really does tamper his floor a little bit. I don't know, though. These are 2 great running backs. They're both pretty efficient. Derrick Henry has the most rushing yards in the league right now, but honestly, if Nick Chubb hadn't have gotten injured, do we think he could even be close to that? Because right now he's getting about 100-something per game. So I don't know. I know Nick Chubb's injury plays a significant part in this, but should we discount anything from him because of that injury, or would we be talking about him in the same breath that we are Derrick Henry without it? So yeah, it's a tough one for me. Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, going off of what you just said about the injury, I think, you got to count it because it is part of the season. It's what happened. If he didn't get injured, though, I think he'd be right there with Derrick Henry. It's a run-first offense in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. And he's not the focal point of the offense, or at least I don't think we think he's the focal point of the offense. Maybe he is on paper, but yeah. My question about Nick Chubb, and he's been incredibly efficient off of way less carries than Derrick Henry, obviously, but is Kareem Hunt sort of capping him? Because they bring in Kareem Hunt not just for passing downs, but for running work too. Does Kareem Hunt kind of limit the potential of Nick Chubb? If Kareem Hunt wasn't there, would Nick Chubb be getting the same amount of work as Derrick Henry? I think that's a pretty good question to ask. What do you guys think?
I tend to agree that Hunt definitely does cut into his workload. If Chubb was getting the same amount of work as Derrick Henry, he'd probably be just as good, maybe even better. I mean, he's been incredibly efficient, and I think these offenses both work kind of the same through their running game. They both dominate games by just controlling the game, running the ball, and teams can't stop them. It opens up play action, opens up so much for these 2 teams, and they're both finding success doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
pretty weird to think that both these run first teams are in playoff position in the AFC, and everybody else is throwing the ball.
Yeah. It's looking though at it. So Nick Chubb, yes, he is hampered a little bit by Kareem Hunt. Derrick Henry, in a sense, is hampered by his own usage in this offense. They only run with him. Like he really doesn't have many receptions, and we've seen a couple of games this season where if they're behind and if they're playing like 2-minute offense or it's like a third down, like he's not even there because they're not going to try and throw to him. Nick Chubb, it's the same way, but that could also just say, okay, if both of these running backs are kind of the same in a sense that all they're going to do is rush, that is a little concerning. If they get behind, they're not able to run the ball as much. You have a very low floor there. So if you look at the yards per carry, like say we take it down to 16 carries for a game, Nick Chubb would have 100 yards on the ground if he had the same average he has at 6.3 yards per carry. Derrick Henry would only have about 70 yards on the ground. So that's a pretty big difference. That's a 30-yard difference. So if we're talking about floors here, I feel like Chubb might actually have like a slightly greater floor just because of his yards per carry that he has right now and the efficiency that he has. Like I know he doesn't get as much carries, but if you put both of these guys in a game where they're out, and they're trying to catch up from behind and it's late in the game, like neither of them's going to be in or utilized,
Well, Henry already has 14 receptions on the year, which I think is more than he's ever had in his career. So I think they're finding out that, yes, he can still catch the ball. He's not totally useless. However, yes, that is a good point. If they do get behind, then, yeah, they're going to pull him and put in like Deontay Foreman or I can't remember the other guy, but another running back. And, same with Cleveland, where they can just put in Kareem Hunt, who is extremely efficient in the passing game.
14 receptions, though, for 93 yards is basically, I mean, we're in week 13 right now, so that's basically one reception per game for about 6 yards. That's
Sure, I'm not saying
feat at all.
it's not great, but it is more than he has had before. So I think there's progression for Derrick Henry. And I think if Chubb wasn't hurt, then there's a chance, I mean, not a chance, he probably would be outpacing Derrick Henry in the passing game. However, all the stats are up to now. Let's talk about going forward in their upcoming schedules. So going forward, it's probably the last week of the regular fantasy season for most everyone. If not, then you have another week in there. But upcoming schedule, Derrick Henry, these two teams actually play each other. So in this upcoming week, Derrick Henry plays Cleveland, who's ranked 10th against fantasy running backs. In the playoffs, however, completely different story. Derrick has Jacksonville, who's ranked 28th, Detroit, who's ranked dead last, Green Bay ranked 30th, and Houston ranked 31st. Wow.
That's scary.
That is. And Nick Chubb has Tennessee next, who's ranked 26th against running backs. In the playoffs, he's got Baltimore, who's ranked 11th, the Giants, who ranked 21st, the Jets, who ranked 23rd, and then Pittsburgh, who ranked 2nd. So I think it's pretty clear who has the way better playoff schedule out of these two backs. Definitely Derrick Henry. I guess the question is, do we see any negative game scripts for either of these running backs going forward where they're off the field?
I don't know about a negative game script, but Derrick Henry just has a significant advantage in the schedule here. And, I mean, they're both matchup proof. You play them no matter what, but these are games that the Titans are going to dominate and that Derrick Henry is just going to get a ton of work in.
Yeah, both have one game that I could see the game script being not as favorable. For the Browns, that would be Baltimore. And for the Titans, that would be Green Bay, which Green Bay is still number 30th against the run. But if Green Bay got out to a really early lead, then maybe they don't utilize the run as much. But, I mean, beating Green Bay is on the ground, so I don't even see it that much there. But, yeah, I don't think it factors in significantly because these are two very good running backs. And looking at those schedules, it really does favor King Henry.
So here's a little DFS nugget then that we could add in. If you had to pick one game where you're not playing these running backs in a DFS lineup, which game is it for both? For me, I would probably avoid Cleveland with Derrick Henry out of these guys, but I mean, still, he's going to be really good. And for Chubb, it's tough. Either Baltimore or Pittsburgh, one of the division games. But I think I'd go Pittsburgh just because that defense is incredible. What do you guys think?
I'd say Cleveland, and I'm going to assume that you end playoffs in week 16, so Cleveland wouldn't even be a thing. Or, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh wouldn't be a thing, so I would say Baltimore.
Okay.
I would say Baltimore for Chubb, too. And I think I would avoid the Houston game because I could see that kind of being a shootout with Deshaun Watson playing really good right now. So, I'm still playing them, but if I had to pick one, I think I'd go with Houston.
Okay. So are we ready to give a final take on these two running backs?
I think so.
Yeah? Zach, you go first. Give us what you
right.
got, man.
Let me give it to you guys straight. This ain't no kingdom, but King Henry is my king. I don't know what that means, but Derrick Henry is my pick. I mean, look at that juicy schedule coming up. Joey's salivating right now.
I am.
That is just an insane schedule. I mean, he is number 1 in the league in rushing yards, 22 carries per game. My goodness. He has like almost the most goal line carries on the season. Just, yeah, give me Derrick Henry. He's a man. I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say. He's a true Titan.
Yeah. I agree. It's Derrick Henry for me, too. That schedule's just way too good to pass up. He's probably going to be the top scoring running back for the rest of the season, in my opinion. But I am extremely impressed with Nick Chubb this season. I think he's been great, super efficient. So I think he's also going to have a very good rest of the season. But Derrick Henry.
His schedule, too, is like pretty awesome for the playoffs. Like, honestly, in like a playoff schedule type thing, like they would both rank really high, but Derrick Henry's is still a lot better.
Yeah, if you are the Nick Chubb owner and you have the first round bye, then you're getting past a defense that we think could cause problems for Nick Chubb. Then you get the Giants and the Jets to end it, who are both in the 20s. I think for me, if Nick Chubb were healthy all season, then this would be a lot closer. And I might side Chubb, but yeah, it's King Henry. He's got the way better playoff schedule. And we've seen it in years past where Derrick Henry just takes over a game in the fourth quarter and in the later half of the season. Defenses are tired. Who wants to tackle a grown 260-pound man running at you at full speed with rope in the back of his head? I mean, who wants to tackle that?
I'll try.
Good luck. We're probably going to have two people on the podcast.
We'll visit you in the hospital, James.
Step right up. $100 if you can tackle Derrick Henry.
$100.
Just $100.
That's going to cover the medical bills.
Even the entry into the emergency room.
I want to touch the guy, see if any of that talent will rub off on me. You never know.
James immediately becomes 6'5", 300 pounds of pure muscle after touching Derrick Henry.
Yes.
It's like a Space Jam thing.
But I think that's going to do it for today's show. In the case of Henry versus Chubb, grown-up fantasy football has decided in favor of King Henry 3-0, unfortunately, for Nick Chubb. However, we still think Nick Chubb is a fantastic running back and a great fantasy player for the rest of the season. But what do you think, Guff Gang? Leave a comment below on who you rather have rest of season, Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb. It could go either way. And leave a comment on who you'd like to see in the fantasy arena. Do you have a question about any other player that's in fantasy football this year who's relevant, or maybe who's not as relevant? Put it in the comments. We'll check it out, and who knows, maybe we do a video on them. But be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to grow up, and be sure to get guffed.
Thank you.